Hello and welcome to Simple Finance Bites. I'm Ernest, and today we're talking about the free tools you can use to start a podcast, a YouTube channel, or any kind of content side hustle without spending a dollar on software. Most people think you need an expensive editing suite and a stack of paid subscriptions before you can even start. That's backwards, and today I'll show you why. Starting a podcast or a YouTube channel feels like it should require a real budget. Walk into that world, and the first thing you see is a wall of subscription software, video editing suites, graphic design tools, stock music libraries, transcription services, scheduling tools. Every one of them has a monthly price tag, and every one of them makes the case that you need it to look professional. Here's the part that matters. Almost none of that software requires the paid version to start. Companies like Adobe and Descript build free tiers specifically so people can try the real product before paying for it. But those free tiers aren't advertised very loudly because the business model depends on you upgrading. The default page you land on is almost always the paid plan, not the free one. This creates a predictable pattern. Someone decides to start a podcast, searches best podcast editing software, lands on a comparison article stacked with affiliate links, and signs up for a $20 to $50 a month tool before they've published a single episode. They're paying rent on software before they know if anyone wants to listen. That's the industry pattern working exactly as designed. Subscription software profits from you committing early, not from you testing carefully. Simple Finance flips that. You don't finance the idea. You test the idea for free, and you only pay once the free version is actually the thing holding you back. This podcast right here is produced in Descript almost entirely. And for a long time, we used the free plan. It wasn't until recently that we upgraded to the paid plan. And the only reason we did that is because we actually produce 3 other podcasts in completely different areas. And the free plan didn't have enough minutes and all that kind of stuff to do it with just the free plan. But we waited until we actually needed the paid plan before we upgraded it. If you're just starting, you don't need anything more than the free plan for any of these tools that we're talking about. But these are businesses at the end of the day. So if your podcast or YouTube channel or whatever it is grows and starts generating money, there's nothing wrong with paying for tools that are generating revenue. The problem is when you're paying for tools and you're not generating revenue. That's what you don't want to do. Quick note, if you're finding value in this episode, subscribe to Simple Finance Bites on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or YouTube Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review anywhere, especially Apple Podcasts. Give us a like on YouTube and share this with someone who you think needs to hear it. Here's the truth about free tiers on most content creation tools. They're not a stripped down demo. They usually have the full core of the product with a volume limit attached. This is especially the case with Descript. You get real editing power, real design tools, real functionality. What you don't get is unlimited use. And sometimes you get a watermark on your export, especially if you're doing a video podcast. This can matter, and that's one area where I would say maybe it's worth it to pay for the upgrade right away. But even then, you're just starting, so you want to try to use the free tools as much as possible. Take Descript, for example. Again, we use this a lot. It's a text-based audio and video editor. The free plan gives you around 60 media minutes a month and 100 one-time AI credits, with exports capped at 720p or 1080p and a small watermark. That's not nothing. That's enough to edit a short podcast episode or 2 while you figure out if this whole thing is going to work for you. You're not being shown a locked door. You're being shown the real workflow with a meter attached. The one area where they do kind of hold back a little bit, for example, on the sound library for intro music or bumpers or stuff like that, you're going to have much fewer options than you would on the paid plan, but there's still enough there for you to actually do the workflow, to actually complete a podcast, to publish it, and you might even be able to do a couple a month on the free plan. But the point is, there's enough there for you to actually do an entire workflow end to end before you upgrade. This is kind of the same story with Adobe Express. We use Adobe Express as our primary graphics editing software, if you want to call it that. But we also have the free version of Canva. We actually use free versions on both of them. Both have a genuinely free tier. However, we're talking about Adobe Express right now. So that one, the free tier, you can build show art, social graphics, there are templates in there, and it's separate entirely from the full Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. That one you've probably seen ads for it. It runs like $55 a month for the standard plan or 70 for the pro plan with AI and a bunch of other stuff in it. You don't need any of that for podcast production, at least. Adobe Express is more than enough, and the paid plan is actually pretty reasonable. It's $9.99 a month if you want to pay for it. But again, you don't need to. We don't pay for it now. We don't pay for Canva either. However, should it be advantageous for us to pay for it later, we have no problem paying for it if we're generating revenue with the projects we're using it on. Most people starting a podcast don't need Photoshop. They don't need Premiere Pro or Illustrator on day one. They need a square image with clean text on it, and Adobe Express free tier and Canva free tier both can do that for you. And for scripts, show notes, budgets, or a simple media kit, a free Office suite like Google Docs or LibreOffice does everything Microsoft 365 does for the average user without a $100 a year personal plan or $130 a year family plan on the price tag. We use Google Docs for everything. We have the free version. We don't pay for it. We don't have Google Workspace. We're able to do everything we need to do in the free version of Google Docs. The one caveat to that we do pay for is the Google Drive storage. We have the 2 terabyte plan. It comes with some kind of weird like Gemini add-on. It's whatever, it doesn't matter. We're not really paying for it for that. But for the 2 terabytes we are, because I use Google Docs to share with anyone else working on projects with me, whether it's other podcast co-hosts, my editor, my graphics designer, whatever. Google Docs is the way we share stuff back and forth. The behavioral trap here isn't laziness. I want to point that out. It's that paying for something feels like progress. Signing up for a $30 a month tool feels like you did something towards your goal, even if you haven't recorded a single episode yet. Simple Finance says that actual progress is publishing something, not subscribing to something. And that's something very important to think about. It's not about starting the process, although that is very important. It's about actually publishing something, right? Signing up for a subscription to a software isn't actually doing anything other than taking money out of your pocket. But when you actually publish something, when you create something and publish it to the world, that is actual progress. And again, you're able to do this for free nowadays and then only pay as you need to when you upgrade, when your podcast starts to get traction and actually generate some revenue. So let's get concrete about what a free starter stack actually looks like and what it would cost if you paid for the equivalent from day one. Mind you, we're drawing this from our own experience when we started this podcast as well as our other podcasts that are all within our network. Audio and video editing. So there are a couple options here. Descript's free plan, again, it's around 60 media minutes a month, enough for a short weekly episode while you're getting started. If you outgrow it and move to hobbyist, that's $16 a month billed annually, but you don't pay that until the free tier is actually the bottleneck. Riverside is another option here. We actually use Riverside on one of our larger podcasts for the recording side. And on that one, the actual editing is done professionally in Premiere Pro. But again, that's not what this episode is about. And that podcast actually generates revenue. So the revenue is paying for all the tools and work being done on it on the back end. For this podcast, which doesn't generate revenue, we're using Descript's plan. But again, we do have the paid plan because we have multiple podcasts going on. But Descript and Riverside are kind of going to be the big 2 players in this field. There are others, and there's nothing wrong with researching those. If you're doing an audio only podcast, you honestly don't even need any of this. You could just use a local software that's installed on your computer like Audacity or GarageBand or something of the equivalent. You don't need any of this fancy stuff. Descript and Riverside just make it easier because they have what they call text-based editing, which means you record everything and then it puts up a transcript. And instead of you having to know how to edit audio like a professional, you just go and highlight the areas in the text that are wrong, hit delete, and it does it for you. And they also have other features in there that help the sound come out better. So again, for audio and video editing, Descript, Riverside, maybe even CapCut. But again, start with the free plans, do as much as you can. And then once you actually hit the limit, that's when you look into the paid tier. For album art, show art, and social graphics, Adobe Express free tier, Canva free tier all work. The Affinity Suite from Serif, who Canva now owns, as well as Pixelmator Pro and various other options, allow you to do it locally either for free or for a buy once, pay once method, which we actually prefer. But as far as doing it online, which we obviously do, Adobe Express free tier, Canva free tier. They both provide templates, basic editing tools, and enough design power to build square cover images and social posts. For Adobe Express, the paid premium tier is $9.99 a month if you eventually need more templates or brand kit features. This is when I actually want to highlight the value here. I'm not a fan of Adobe in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I actually think they're a pretty decrepit company and have some pretty slimy business practices. But aside from that, $9.99 a month is actually a value for all the features you get here. I would much rather be paying Canva if I'm actually going to pay for something, but I don't mind using the free tier on either one of them. Canva to me is just a better company, better run, does a lot more for society. For example, free to education, free to nonprofits, all that kind of stuff. So if that matters to you, Canva's a better product anyway. But again, considering Adobe Express at $9.99 a month, compare that to jumping straight into Adobe Creative Cloud Standard at $55 a month, which most beginners wouldn't even touch 2/3 of. Again, there is a place for that kind of software. We use it on one of our podcasts that's professionally produced. But for most people, you don't need it. For this podcast, probably never going to need that, right? So just focus on the free tiers first again, and then move up. So just a reminder here, Adobe Express, Canva, both of them have free tiers or locally installed software that you buy once, pay once, and own it forever. Now, as far as scripts, notes, and docs, these are the heartbeat of pretty much anything. It doesn't matter whether it's an audio podcast like this one, a video podcast like the other one I mentioned that we produce, or any of the other content that we generate for social media across any of our properties. These three things, scripts, notes, and docs, are kind of necessary for anything. So you want to use a free Office suite here. $0, right? You don't need to pay $99.99 a year for Microsoft 365 Personal. Google Docs is free with your Gmail account, and it should work perfectly fine for just about anything you need to do here. The only area where you might run into a problem is storage space if you're not paying for the Google Drive storage already. But I know that like our Android users out there are probably paying for additional Google Drive storage already. So that's something you probably already have. And Google Docs will handle all of this for free. So just remember that. Start with the free versions. If you want to use locally installed apps, you can use things like LibreOffice or OpenOffice or Apple's Pages. You can even use things like Notepad. As long as you have a way of logically kind of organizing your stuff, that's fine. But if you have to collaborate with other people, especially remotely like we do, right? We have people literally all over the United States we work with. Then you need something that you can collaborate with online. And for that, our recommendation and the tool we use is Google Docs. Now, stack the paid versions of just these three categories together, and you're looking at somewhere in the range of $150 to $250 a month before you've published a single episode or made a cent. Okay? $1,800 to $3,000 a year. Stack the free versions and the number is 0. That gap is the whole point. It's not that paid tools are bad. It's that paying for them before you know if the content works is financing an idea instead of testing one, right? So figuring out which tools are actually worth paying for once you're ready to scale is exactly the kind of thing that we love to talk about. But since this is a simple finance channel, we're focusing on the core message here, which is stick with the free apps and the free services until you know you need to upgrade. So here's how to actually put this into practice this week. First, pick one free tool per category, one editor, one design tool, one docs tool. Don't try to evaluate 5 options in each category. Just pick one, use it for real, and see where it breaks down. If you want my personal recommendation on which of each of these to take, Descript for the editor, Canva for the design tool, and Google Docs for the docs tool. That's it. Start with those 3. If for whatever reason any one of those doesn't work for you, then you can start exploring other options, but that will get you started rather than sitting there trying to figure out where to go next. Second, set a real test. Record and edit 2 or 3 pieces of content using only free tools before you decide anything about upgrading. That's enough to hit the actual limits, not the limits you're imagining in advance. This is one of those things that really bugs me about the free tiers or the freemium models, is they set them up in such a way where you have a FOMO that you're going to run out of resources or that you're going to not be able to do something. But here's the reality. If you're not actually doing anything yet, you have no idea where those limits are. So you need to start and just do it. If you hit a limit, once you hit a limit, you can upgrade at that point. And that's the other thing. They're going to show you lower prices for the annualized version of this. But if you're still not sure, let's just say you started doing this for a couple of months, 2, 3 months. You get in there and you say, okay, I've now hit the free limit. I need to upgrade to the paid limit, but I'm still not sure if this thing's going to work out long term or if I'm going to stick with it. Don't be afraid to pay more per month to have it month to month until you are sure you're going to continue it for at least a year, rather than trying to save a few dollars up front, pay for it for a year, do it for another month, and then you have 11 months worth of subscription that you wasted money on. They're priced that way on purpose to try to get you to pay for a year up front. Don't do that unless you're sure you're going to stick with it. It's kind of like a gym membership in that way. And the third thing is pay attention to where the friction actually is, right? And this is another area, again, where we're zooming in, right? This is not just the thought. This is the actual where the rubber hits the road. Sometimes a free tier's limit is a minor annoyance. For example, with Descript, you have the 60 minutes a month. So you might get up to 59 minutes or 55 minutes and then realize, oh, I can't record another episode until my thing resets. But you might be at week 4 already, and it's going to reset the following week. So are you really going to fall behind, or is there really a cost to it? Or you just wait until next week? That's the thing. Sometimes it's a real wall, like hitting a monthly processing cap that resets your available minutes before you finish editing everything you've recorded that month. When that happens, that's useful information. It tells you exactly which tool has earned a paid upgrade instead of guessing up front. But also remember that they're doing that on purpose. They're setting the limits to where you're going to get involved enough that you will hit the wall at some point and want to upgrade. So consider that when you're doing this. Is this something that you're going to run into on a regular basis, or did you just produce an extra episode this month that you don't normally produce, and that's why you hit that limit? Pay attention to how you're actually using it to figure out, is it time to pay for this or not? By figuring out where that limit is and figuring out when it's time to upgrade, that's the prepaid lifestyle in action, right? It's applied to building something new instead of just cutting an expense. I'm not saying not to buy anything. I'm saying you can buy whatever you want as long as you can afford to buy it cash outright. That applies to software the same way it applies to a couch or a car. Once your free tier is genuinely holding you back in real working content, and you can afford to pay for the upgrade in cash without financing anything, that's the signal to upgrade, not before. The order matters. Prove the content is worth making, then prove people want to hear it. Then and only then spend money to make the process smoother. So let me give you the key takeaway from today. Free tools prove the idea. Cash proves you're ready to grow it. Don't pay rent on software for a side hustle that doesn't exist yet. I made this mistake multiple times when I was first getting into the media and content creation business because I didn't know what I was doing. I came into this blind. I had zero history in content creation and media. I came from a tech background working on cybersecurity and compliance. This was the last thing I had ever thought about. But then I realized I really do love this and I love doing it. So what do I do? And I immediately went to, well, in my enterprise software world, we just bought tools when we needed them. And even if they only solved one problem, if it was a crucial problem and we needed to have it solved and that software was generating us revenue, we were able to justify the expense. The problem is I wasn't able to justify the expense. I was justifying it in my mind. And that's when about 1.5 years ago, I said, I'm going to have to cut all subscriptions, get down to the bare bones, and then apply this methodology, which is have it prove that I need it first before I actually pay for it. And once I did that, it changed literally everything. Thanks again for hanging out with me today on Simple Finance Bites. Quick note, this is all financial education, not financial advice, so please see the full disclaimer in the show notes before making any financial decisions. If this episode was helpful, subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Then share it with someone who needs to hear the content. For more insights on simple finance and building real wealth, head to simplefinancebites.com. And if you want deeper insights behind these episodes, plus your free Simple Finance System blueprint, join our monthly newsletter. You can find it on the website. Connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. All the links will be in the show notes. Before we wrap up, quick security reminder that applies to everything we've discussed today. Enable two-factor authentication on your email and banking accounts right now. It's a simple way to protect the financial progress you're making. And if you've enabled it on your email account, for example, your Gmail account, you can actually use your Gmail account to log into Descript. You already use it to get into Google Docs, and you can use it to get into Adobe Express or Canva. So you're securing all of your stuff by way of putting 2FA or MFA on your email address. So please, if you haven't done that on your email and banking accounts, please go do that today. Until next time, keep it simple, stay focused, and take control of your financial future.